Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves.
How's it going, all you mentees? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions, and join me today for your advanced look at the Thor by Jason Aaron Omnibus Volume 2 from Marvel Comics. So, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so before getting started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks in Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on October 24th or 25th, depending on where you get your books. And speaking of direct market and book market, what we're looking at here is the direct market cover by Olivier Coipel. On the left-hand side is your standard edition cover, and that one is supplied by Russell Dodderman, who is one of the series artists. But Coipel also did some of the artwork in here, and I'll talk a little bit about that once we're looking inside of the book. But yes, the spines are different, both of them showcasing the mighty Thor, though. All right, let's put the focus back to this cover right here, because everything underneath the dust jacket is identical. So we have both the mighty Thor and Thor, the pinnacle of superhero storytelling. It's a blurb right there by Jason Aaron, Russell Dodderman, Olivier Coipel, Mike Del Mundo, and Esad Ribic. Yes, all of them. Esad Ribic, who kicked off Jason Aaron's run, comes back to finish it. Oh, it's epic proportions, that's for sure. Marvel Omnibus, Thor by Jason Aaron, Russell Dodderman, Olivier Coipel, Mike Del Mundo, and then Esad Ribic, and then the Volume 2 down there. And of course, I'm going to be asked, what does it look like on the shelf right beside Volume 1? Well, it looks a little bit like this, so there you go. Nothing really after that, because that's the Donny Cates era. So who knows, maybe one day that stuff will be collected. And then the back of the book, giving you a small taste as to what some of the art looks like, what's collected in here, rated T+, the retail price being $150, and then your ISBN right there. Let's look at it underneath the dust jacket. And Thor, Jason Aaron, brings the thunder here on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side is information and bio on the creators. And this design right here, this color, this grayish, bluish tone that they're using throughout the book, it's the same design as Volume 1. And here is what the art on board looks like. Who are all these Thors? Well, one way for you to find out. And then, of course, the spine, what they did with Volume 1, separating the wraparound art on board. Okay, we're going to crack this book open, talk about what's collected in here, showcase the artwork. Even putting me on mute might spoil some of the things that happen in Volume 1, so maybe jump to the part where I'm talking about the build of the book and the pages and the binding. Just, I don't want anybody to be spoiled for what's happening through these pages. But if you don't care about spoilers, or you've read Volume 1 and you're ready to go in here with some minor spoilers as to the premise of what's going on through here, by all means, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, let's go ahead and crack this big book open. This book has 1,368 pages. And here's the War Thor, which we'll talk a little bit about without, like I said, going into spoilers. Thor by Jason Aaron. He is, of course, the main writer on here. Actually, I think he does everything through here. So here are all the different artists that he worked with, like Steve Epting, but Russell Dodderman being the big one here, as well as Mike Del Mundo, and then the return of Esad Ribic. And you also have Olivier Coipel doing some stuff in here, Valerio Schetti. But if you look at this big celebration, the anniversary 700th issue, look at the legends that are drawing this. You have some stuff in there from Walter Simonson and Jill Thompson, Dave Stewart, Chris Burnham, just to name a few of the creators. And we kick it off with The Mighty Thor, issue number 13. So what is collected? Oh, look, we still have more stuff in here. What is collected in here? Well, this collects The Mighty Thor 13 through 23. That is the 2015 relaunch. And then when it goes back to the legacy number 700 to 706. So you go 23, and then 700 is your 24th issue. Then we have the Unworthy Thor, finally, all 5 issues of that collected in here. That's not previously been collected in the oversized hardcovers. It's been collected in trade paperbacks, but it was also, I think it was also left out of the complete collections, and please correct me if I'm wrong. The Generations, the Unworthy Thor, and the Mighty Thor, which is where the direct market cover came from. And then you have Mighty Thor at the Gates of Valhalla. It's just a one-shot. Thor 1 through 16. That's the new ongoing series of 2018 that leads directly into the War of the Realms. So all of the 6 issues of that is collected in here. And then to wrap up Jason Aaron's run, the 4-issue series King Thor. And I'll show you some of the artwork, but not really go into details about that series, because that's kind of like the big epilogue. So what exactly is going on through these early pages? Well, it's still the whole Knights of the Realm, or the Fellowship of the Realm, rather, joining forces to stop this oncoming doom. Because by now they've heard rumors that Malekith is recruiting his own dark forces to help destroy the realms, and he's going across the realms to get this done. These early stories are drawn by Steve Epting, and by now, what's happened previously, Thor, the Thor that we're used to, Odin's son, has lost his power to become Thor, which has happened before. So we have a new Thor, and that is, of course, the Mighty Thor. And as I'm flipping through here, the Mighty Thor is, and if you read, of course, Volume 1, is, of course, Jane Foster. And Jane Foster is dying of cancer. And what you come to realize in this volume is that every time she's picking up that hammer, the cancer is eating away at her when she goes from Mighty Thor back to her human form. And it's just so beautiful and heroic that she keeps deciding to fight until she can't. And it's this story is so wonderful and so inspirational for anybody that's ever fighting or have family members that have fought, any kind of disease like that. It's horrible what happens to the human body. So back to what's going on in the main story. We now have a big Asgardian and Shi'ar war happening because the Shi'ars have their own gods, and they're not too happy with the Mighty Thor. We get this whole little tidbit, or almost like a cameo of the Phoenix, and you kind of get the feeling that Jason Aaron really likes the Phoenix and wants to explore more of that, and he does in the pages of his Avengers, and Phoenix does come back through here, and I'm not talking about just Jean Grey, I'm talking about the Phoenix Force. And here we have Unworthy Thor. So what exactly is Unworthy Thor? And I love the way this is mapped, by the way. This is mapped so good. I can't show you the ending of the Shi'ar and Asgardian War, but this is perfectly put right after the final battle with the Shi'ar gods, because Thor shows up, Odin's son shows up, and he tells Jane Foster he's been gone, but he's going to stay this time around. And she's like, "Where have you been?" And he's like, "That's a story for another day." And immediately it follows up with this, because this and the previous issue of Mighty Thor also have an epilogue that leads into the next saga, which we'll look at here in a second. But what this does is, this has the reunion of Beta Ray Bill and Thor, Odin's son, the fight with the Collector and the Black Order. But what this does is answer the question, what was whispered to Thor to make him unworthy in the pages of Original Sin, if you all remember that, which was collected in the first omnibus. Not all of Original Sin, but just the pages where he loses his power. And you don't know exactly what was whispered to him, and you can find out who whispered it. But in here, you finally find out what that's about. And he decides to make his own hammer and make his own destiny. Then we go back to the Mighty Thor with issue number 20, and this introduces us to a new Thor, and that is the War Thor. And his origin is freaking sad. Like, some of the things that Jason Aaron was doing on here, there is some borderline. I think that's a little more than rated T+, just because of some of the subject matter that he's dealing with. But you can find out for yourself. It's a powerful story, too. Then you get the Generations one-shot, which pits both Odin's son and the Mighty Thor fighting against one of the X-Men's greatest foes, and that is Apocalypse. And then we go back to the Mighty Thor, which is about to wrap up because there's this huge battle. The Mangog is back, one of the classic Kirby characters. Odin's son forbids Jane to pick up the hammer because he's found out that she's dying and it's killing her more and more. And of course, Jane's like, "No, I'm gonna do what's right, and you all need help, and I am the freaking Mighty Thor, so I'm gonna keep picking up the hammer." And you can find out how that beautiful story ends. There is a one shot to wrap up the series. But before we talk about the next story arc, I wanted to showcase some of the art here in Thor 700. So this is when the Mighty Thor goes back to the legacy number. So you have some classic artists coming back, like of course Walter Simonson. And big things are happening. There are characters that are dying, and then Malekith's forces are growing stronger and stronger. And as I mentioned, the big fight between the Mangog and the War Thor, and Jane Foster refusing to put the hammer down. Oh, Rossman's back too. She's back. Which I think in the first book, if you were reading it, you were probably thinking, like everybody else that was reading the series on a monthly basis, that, hey, Ross is probably the Mighty Thor. But nope. Alright, then we go with Thor. Now, this is the new ongoing series. Russell Dodderman leaves the book because he's focusing on a miniseries, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And now Mike Del Mundo joins Jason Aaron for the Thor series. And this is what the artwork looks like. And it's really funny because every time a new artist steps in, especially after Esad Ribic, who has this heavy metal, 80s in your face art style, we have the cartoony look of Russell Dodderman. And I was like, oh, this doesn't fit the tone, but it did. And I became a huge Russell Dodderman fan. And the same thing happened with Mike Del Mundo. Russell Dodderman left the book and Mike Del Mundo comes in, and I was like, oh, I don't know about this. This looks like cheap, painted style. I'm not digging it, but his art is so freaking amazing. I was hoping that they give him one of the covers because it's iconic. Some of the designs that he did for this particular title. And here we have Thor now with, what's his name? Thorgy, the dog from the Loki series, and who was abandoned. And you find out in Unworthy Thor what happened to that dog and how he ends up meeting up with Thor. This is a Tony Moore issue. And now Thor has reclaimed his role as Thor, or I'm sorry, Odin's son has reclaimed his role as Thor. He's wielding this big golden arm now. He has a new hammer, and through these pages you can find out exactly how he's even capable of lifting the hammer again and how he has a new hammer. And then we get to the big story arc. So everything here in the Thor series from 2018 leads directly into the big event, which of course is the War of the Realms. Oh, here, let's look at it. There we go. There's that Arthur Adams cover. The War of the Realms. So this was a 6-issue miniseries, all collected in here. Drawn by Russell Dodderman. So this is what Russell Dodderman has been working on while Mike Del Mundo was working on the main Thor series. So here's where the team is split up. This is Malekith is now teamed up with Loki, Ulik the Troll, the new Kurz, Laufey, that is the ruler of the Frost Giants, Cinder, the Queen of Heaven, the Enchantress, and Dario Agger, who played a big part in the first Omnibus. And then these are the Asgardians that are going to help. And then, of course, the heroes of Midgard, which is Earth. Because they're not going to let Malekith's forces take over. So that's what Malekith wants to do. He wants to destroy the different realms. And in order to do that, he's going to have to destroy Earth. Now, the way this is mapped, for the people wondering, it is mapped perfectly. You have the issues of Jason Aaron's Thor in between issues of War of the Realms, which is good. I like that. It's not War of the Realms all the way in the back. It makes sense because there are things that are happening within the Thor book that you need to read in order to appreciate the War of the Realms a little more. It doesn't contain every tie-in, of course. That's all in the Omnibus or even the Omega issue. But it has the main War of the Realms issues. Variant covers are sometimes in between issues because they're not all in the back. So everybody gets to have a little bit of fun through here. Wolverine, actually Wolverine is one of my favorite parts when they're like, the Warrior 3 are like, hey, we're going to recruit you. You're going to become one of the new Warrior 3. And he's like, all right, let's go, bub. But anyway, you can find out how that ends. There's some deaths through here. But not just deaths, there's also rebirths. And we have the final issue of Thor, This is number 16 right here. And these work like an epilogue as to what happened in War of the Realms. But Jason Aaron's not done with Thor, because after issue number 16, we kick off the King Thor series. And of course, I am censoring that final page, so you're not spoiled. Now, instead, I wouldn't look too much through here, but we do have the return of old Thor with his granddaughters, and maybe young Thor, and all these timelines, and what they really had to do with each other. And of course, the character that brought them all together also makes a big return. And Azad Ribbage. Now, Azad Ribbage is also joined by Russell Dodderman and Mike Del Mundo for a few panels, but I can't show any of that because I want people to be surprised. This was only 4 issues, and then Jason Aaron says goodbye to the character. All right, let's look at the back matter, mainly looking at variant covers, but there's some other goodies back here. Now, some of the variant covers are also found in between chapters and issues, like I was showing. But this is for the people that didn't want any kind of spoilers. And believe me, these covers have sometimes absolutely nothing to do with what's going on inside of the book. People get excited when they see like a Carnage or a Venom Thor, and I'm like, yeah, that didn't happen, sorry. How to draw Mjolnir. 6 easy steps. There's some really cool variants here. It's one of my favorites. That's actually one that I have signed by Jason Aaron, Russell Dodderman, Matthew Wilson, who was the colorist, and then Art Germ signed that. I'm just a big fan of that cover. It's connecting covers here. Some King Thor covers, and I have this one. This is from the C2E2, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Because this is when they put the green in the river there in Chicago. Lots of variants. Connecting covers later on. So the variants are all in here. And then you have concept art of newer characters, some of the Fellowship of the Realm characters, and then some of Malekith's forces. There's Titanium, Bloodroot, the return of Mangog. It's really cool to see Russell Dodderman draw that character. And some newer characters and designs. Now, after this, of course, is when Donny Cates takes over the book. But if you want to follow one of the most underrated characters from here is the Valkyrie series by Torunn Grumbeck and Al Ewing and Jason Aaron. That is a phenomenal series that should not be missed. Here's the Unworthy Thor Afterward by Jason Aaron, telling you a little bit of why they waited so long to tell that story. And then the Mighty Thor 700 Afterward. Mighty Thor 706 Afterward over here from Russell Dodderman and Jason Aaron. So these are like their goodbyes. Mike Del Mundo and Jason Aaron after Thor 16. And then King Thor number 4 Afterward. This is the one that has this piece right here. I love that. This is Jason Aaron talking about, how long he'd been working on Thor and how he's going to miss the character. And then your end sheets. So let's take a look at the binding. That's what I'm talking about. That big eye right there. 1,368 pages. It is sewn binding. This one is printed at the iMac printer, so looking for some light, some white pages right here. A little bit of bleed through. But honestly, the paper stock feels thicker than volume 1, and that was also printed at the iMac printer. And I was just looking at it, so that's why I know it feels a little bit thicker. And as far as not the bleed through, but the gutter loss, you do have a little bit of gutter loss, especially towards the beginning on spread pages, but let's find one right here that kind of showcases what it looks like earlier on. So you do have just a little bit of gutter loss. Not very much, but it is there. I did want to point that out. And that's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltzcomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget, the CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more.
And that was the content, the page count, and build of this volume 2. Let me know in the comments down below if you've never read this stuff, if you have the War of the Realms Omnibus and you're still going to pick this up, or how you're going to collect that particular era. What you thought of Jason Aaron's run on Thor. 7 years, it's a long time these days for comic book creators to stay on a book. But if you have any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.